This is the study of geography, and these are the branches of geography: physical geography, human geography, and practical geography. These are among the few topics that we look at when we study geography. We look at industrialization, we look at forestry, we look at tea plantations, maize plantations, brick making industry, among many others. Today's topic is the structure of the earth, the internal structure of the earth. Welcome to Geography Lesson 9. But just before then, press the subscribe button so that you can get our notifications. We're very glad that you found time to join us.
Hello, thanks for joining us for another study. We have a new topic today, and this is about the structure of the earth, and you are welcome. We talk about the earth, and we talk about the earth, and we said the earth is the home of man. It is the only planet, it's the only heavenly body, the only object that goes around the sun that is able to support life. It is because of a number of factors, and the factors are associated with its structure. The composition, how the characteristic features that are in it are the ones that are friendly enough to support life. Now, the earth has got two major structures. It has got the internal structure and the external structure. The internal structure is also referred to as the interior of the earth, means the inside of the earth. Yes. We are talking about what we could, in a layman's language, what we could refer to as the ground. Yes. And this ground, as we have it here on the surface, is not uniformly structured onto the inside of the earth. So we have the internal structure or the interior of the earth, and we have the external structure. The internal structure has got three parts. We have the crust, which is also called the lithosphere. We have the mantle, which is also called the asthenosphere. We have the core, which is also called the centrosphere or the barysphere. We have a diagram here to show the internal structure of the earth. So this is the internal structure of the earth. We have the three layers. We have the crust, then the middle part is called the mantle, and the right inside, it is called the core. Let us look at the crust. The earth is round, and the outermost part is what we call the crust. So the crust is the outermost part of the earth's interior, of the internal structure of the earth. The crust is cold and solid. It is wrinkled. It is not smooth. Yes, it is wrinkled. We have hills, we have valleys, we have depressions, and that is what we mean by it being wrinkled. It is folded. And the crust runs for a radius of about 16 kilometers to 24 kilometers. In areas where there are mountains like Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, yes, those high regions, it can run for about 70 kilometers before you come to the lowest point of the crust. The crust is divided into two: the seal, which makes the continents, the dry land, and the simmer, which makes the oceanic crust, the part that is covered by the water bodies. The seal comprises of very light rocks, the rocks which have the minerals of silica and aluminium. These are very light minerals, and therefore the rocks which make the shell are very light. The rocks float on the simmer. The simmer is made up of a little hard and a little dense rocks, and the rocks are made up of silica and magnesium, and it runs. It is the part that is covered by the water. The temperatures in the crust are low. So we have said that it is the outermost layer. It is already cold and solid, and it lies on the mantle. It floats on the mantle. It is made up of two layers, that is the shell and the simmer. Now, the crust is separated from the mantle by a discontinuity layer that is called the M discontinuity layer, or it is also called the Moho discontinuity layer, or the mohorophysic discontinuity layer. This layer lies between the crust and the mantle, and it was discovered by Mohorovicic. He was a geologist. We said geography is a career subject. This is a man who was studying about the rocks and the seismic waves, and he realized that when the seismic waves that causes earthquakes reach this point, they move rather faster than the way they were moving when they were on the crust. So he realized that there is a layer that is lying between the mantle and the crust, and it is called the discontinuity, the Moho discontinuity layer. Then we have the mantle. The mantle, we said, is called the Asthenosphere as well. It is the second layer in the Earth's interior. It lies in between the crust and the core. It lies in between the Moho discontinuity layer and the Gutenberg discontinuity layer. This layer is made up of denser materials or rocks, and these materials, they are made up of iron and magnesium. Magnesium is available in the crust, but it is in small quantities. Large amounts of magnesium, they are found in the asthenosphere. Temperatures in the asthenosphere are high. They are ranging at about 5,000 degrees Celsius. Yes, we talk about 27 degrees when the sun is hot here. We talk about the body temperature of a human being is about 37 degrees or 36 point something degrees. Now we are talking about the temperatures in the mantle being 5,000 degrees Celsius. And this layer is the largest among the three, the crust, the mantle, and the core. The mantle is the largest in radius. It runs up to a depth of about 2,900 kilometers from the Earth's surface. Can you subtract the about 24 kilometers that are covered by the crust? So, literally, 2,900 kilometers, almost the whole of it, is covered by the mantle. We have said the rocks here are dense, and the temperatures are very high, about 5,000 degrees. About 5,000 degrees. And the mantle is divided into two parts. We have the upper mantle and we have the lower mantle. The upper mantle is solid and rigid. And the inner mantle is comprised of semi-molten rocks, which exist under intense pressure and temperature. These temperatures lead to the formation of convectional currents, which we saw in Form 2 that they cause earth movements, and these earth movements lead to the formation of landforms, which we see here on the earth's surface. So even that crust, which we said is wrinkled, one reason of it being wrinkled is because of the convectional currents which occur in the earth's interior, that is in the mantle, and they lead to the formation of the earth movements. That is a topic in Form 2. Then we have the mantle is neighbored by the core from the inside, but it is neighbored by a discontinuity layer that separates it with the core, and this discontinuity layer is referred to as the Gutenberg discontinuity layer. It was discovered by a man by the name Gutenberg. There's a lot of study that has been taken, and so we have facts about the Earth's interior. And this discontinuity layer runs, and after which we have the Earth's center, which is called the Asthenosphere, from that word center, and it is also called the barysphere, or we call it the core. Now, the core is made up of very dense rocks, the rocks which contain the minerals of iron and nickel. The core is divided into two. We have the outer core and we have the inner core. The outer core exists under very high temperatures of about 5,500 degrees Celsius, and the rocks there are semi-molten, just the same way it is in the lower mantle. The outer core exists under intense pressure as well, and the rocks here are made up of magnesium. The rocks here are made up of nickel and iron. Then we talk about the center of the earth, and that is the inner core. It's made up of very heavy rocks which are made up of iron as a mineral, mainly iron. And the rocks exist under very high temperatures of about 6,000 degrees Celsius. The rocks are still solid. And you look at this temperature, 6,000 degrees, and the outside of the sun. The outside of the sun is 6,000 degrees. The inside of the earth is 6,000 degrees. You see? So there is a relationship between the earth and the sun. Probably the passing star theory is correct, that the earth was plucked from the sun, and that is why the temperatures are similar. Then we may talk about the earth's interior, as we have seen, is very hot, right from the mantle. The upper mantle, the lower mantle, they exist under very high temperatures of 5,000 degrees. The outer core exists under 5,000 degrees Celsius, and the inner core exists under 6,000 degrees Celsius. All this is like a myth, it's like a theory. So we may try to give the reasons. Why do we think is the Earth's interior hot? Why do we have those very high temperatures exist in the Earth's interior? So we look at the reasons. Reason number one is that during the cooling process, when the Earth was plucked from the sun, according to the passing star theory, the materials started cooling, and the outer part cooled faster than the inner part. And so the inner part, we could say, is still retaining much of the original heat from the sun. So that is one reason. During the cooling process, the earth cooled faster from the outside and it retained the original heat in the inside. Could we also suggest that it is still cooling? One time it may cool right to the center of the earth. Anyway, that is a joke. Then we have another reason is that the Earth's interior, as we have looked at it, is made up of layers. These layers are rocks, and therefore the crust of rocks, which run for about 70 kilometers before you reach 70 kilometers before you reach the Moho discontinuity layer. And then we have the discontinuity layer, which is also made up of rocks. And then we have the mantle. You see the weight of the crustal rocks is heavy enough to generate heat. That weight is excess, and so it generates some heat in the interior of the earth. Much more to the earth's interior, the inside where we have the core, we have the weight of the crustal rocks, weight of the mantle, and therefore all that, especially the rocks that are making the mantle, they are heavier. So they cause a lot of stress on the center of the earth, making it to be very hot at 6,000 degrees. Then finally, we have the radioactivity, where we are talking about the nuclear atoms which exist in the Earth's interior. These nuclear atoms, they split from time to time. They break up. And when they break up, they cause a chain of reactions between the neutrons. And this one generates some heat. And we had said that there is a relationship between geography and other subjects. Like now when we talk about the atoms, when they split, when they break, and they cause fire, you know. That is chemistry, my friend. There is a relationship between chemistry and geography, and therefore this is one of the relationships, that there are the nucleus which continue breaking up in the Earth's interior and they generate heat, causing the Earth's interior to be hot. Thank you for taking your time to learn with us, and let us meet in the next lesson.
Continue watching this YouTube channel where you will get more similar content to help you during your study in high school, and kindly share so that your friends can get the same kind of content and be helped in their study as well. Thank you. Have a nice time.